Let's talk about freedom. We usually think it means having endless options, right? But what if that's completely wrong? What if the very things we think are holding us back, our limitations, are actually the secret to unlocking our potential? I know, it sounds kind of backward, but today we're gonna dive into this really powerful idea that just flips the whole script on what it means to be free. Let's get into it.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle this whole paradox of choice thing. Then, we're gonna draw a really important line between what's a limitation and what's actual oppression. After that, we'll dig into what freedom for your potential really looks like, see how focus is the absolute key, and then we'll land on a brand new and honestly pretty powerful definition of being free.
All right, so let's jump right in with part one, the paradox of choice. I mean, we've all been taught this, right? The more options you have, the more pathways, the more choices. Well, that's got to be the ultimate freedom. Or is it?
But is it really? Like, is having the power to do literally anything at any time the same thing as actually being free? We've got to challenge that basic idea. And this slide just nails the problem perfectly. On one hand, we have the promise of unlimited choice. We think, yes, empowerment, opportunity, I'm in control. But what's the reality? Well, it's often this complete mess of paralysis, anxiety, and just stagnation. You get so overwhelmed by all the possibilities that you just freeze up and end up doing nothing at all. Sound familiar? Okay, so this whole mess brings us to a really crucial distinction. If we're gonna understand what true freedom is, we have to redefine the enemy. It's not limitation we should be fighting, it's oppression. And believe me, they are two totally different things.
So check out this definition of oppression. It's not just about some external force holding you down. No, in this view, oppression is anything that stifles or suffocates your potential. And that includes the paralysis you give yourself when you have way too many choices. Think about that. If your potential isn't growing, you are, in a very real sense, oppressed. And here is the other side of that coin, and this is just brilliant. A limitation isn't a cage. It's more like a channel. Think of a river. If a river doesn't have banks, if it has no limitations, the water just spreads out everywhere and becomes a shallow, stagnant marsh. But with those banks, with those limitations, it becomes this powerful, focused current. That is exactly what limitations can do for our potential.
Okay, so if freedom isn't about how many choices you have, then what is it about? This next part really gets to the core of it. True freedom is all about the condition of your potential.
This table just lays it all out so clearly. Let's look at the left column, the truly free person. Notice they have limitations, they have boundaries, and because of that, their potential actually grows, and their energy is focused. Now look at the right side, the oppressed person. Now this is wild. They might have no limitations at all, total so-called freedom. But what happens? Their potential stagnates. It's scattered and aimless. Because they can go anywhere, they end up going absolutely nowhere.
So what does this all mean for us, like in the real world? It all boils down to the power of focus and really getting our heads around how limitations can actually be the very thing that liberates us. And this is where the big mindset shift has to happen. First, stop thinking that having limitations, like a tight deadline, a small budget, or a very specific project goal is a sign that you're not free. It's just not true. And it's not a sign that you're oppressed either. The real enemy of your freedom isn't the boundary, it's the oppression of your own potential. And that, so often, comes from having no focus, not from having no options.
So the next step here is to actually lean into those limitations, to even embrace them. See, when you're in a state of true freedom, those boundaries don't feel like a prison. They feel more like a trellis for a climbing plant. They give you the structure, the pressure, and the focus you need for your potential to actually climb and flourish into something strong, directed, and, well, powerful.
All right, let's pull all these threads together now. It's time for a final and honestly a pretty game-changing new definition of what it actually means to be free.
And here it is. True freedom is the state where your potential is actively growing and developing. That's it. It's so simple, but it's also incredibly profound. Just ask yourself, are you growing? Are you developing? If the answer is yes, then you are free. It doesn't matter what your limitations are. And if the answer is no, then you're oppressed. It doesn't matter how many options you have. Freedom isn't a thing you have, it's a thing you do. It's the act of your potential coming to life.
And we're going to end on this quote.
True freedom is not being able to choose anything, but no longer being disturbed by choices that shouldn't be confusing our lives. Just think about that for a second. Imagine getting to a place where you're not constantly pulled in 1,000 different directions, but you're so clear on your path that all the other choices they just fade into background noise. Now that, according to this idea, is the ultimate form of liberty. So I'll leave you with this question. What choices in your life are just noise? And what limitations might be the key to finally setting you free? So, what if I told you that true freedom isn't really about having endless choices? What if it's something else entirely, something much deeper? Okay, let's dive right into this, because this idea really challenges everything we think we know about being free. All right, so in our last explainer, we talked all about oppression, right? We defined it as anything that stifles your potential. Today, we're going to take that exact idea and use it to completely flip the script on what freedom means. It's a connection you might not see coming, but trust me, it's the absolute key. So, let's just start with the big question that's on everyone's mind. Is freedom just having endless options? You know, the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with this infinite menu of choices in front of you? I mean, it sounds right, doesn't it? But as we're about to find out, the reality is way, way more interesting than that.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll kick things off with something called the freedom paradox. Then we'll get into the crucial difference between being limited versus being oppressed. That'll lead us to why potential is the real priority. And finally, we'll land on this powerful concept of ultimate trust, or tawakkul.
Okay, first up, the freedom paradox. This is where we start to poke some holes in that popular, but honestly pretty flawed idea of what it means to be free. And here's the core of it, right here. The simple truth is that chasing a life with zero limitations, well, it's just not in the cards for us. It's a chase for something that just doesn't exist in our reality. And why is that? Well, because by our very nature, we are limited beings. I mean, think about it. Let's say you decide you want to be free from the limits of your city, so you pack up and move. The second you get to the new place, you're instantly bound by its limitations. You never actually escape limits, you just trade one set for another. So this idea of some kind of absolute, total freedom, it's really just a myth. So if freedom isn't about getting rid of all our limits, then what on earth is it? This brings us to probably the single most important idea in this entire explainer, the massive difference between being limited and being oppressed. And believe me, they are not the same thing. This is everything right here. Take a look. On the left, you've got the free person. They're limited, for sure, but their potential is flourishing. Think of it like a vine on a trellis. The structure actually helps it grow upward toward the sun. For a free person, limitations aren't a cage. They're a focused pathway that helps them adapt and grow stronger. Now look at the right. This person seems to have unlimited choices, but all that freedom just leads to confusion, and their potential gets completely choked out. You see? It's not about how many options you have. It's about whether your potential is actually allowed to grow. So let's get this definition crystal clear. Oppression isn't just about having rules or boundaries. Nope. It's any situation, any condition where your true potential, that unique thing you're meant to be, is being held back, squashed, and suppressed. And this is the huge shift in thinking. The real goal isn't to just run around trying to break down the walls of our limitations. No, the real journey of freedom is about rising above oppression so we can finally unlock what we were truly meant to become. Okay, so that leads us to the next logical step. If freedom means escaping whatever is oppressing our potential, then it's pretty obvious what our number one priority has to be: figuring out what that potential is and making it happen. Let's just walk through this logic together, nice and easy. Step 1. Freedom means being unoppressed. We've got that. 2. And we know oppression is anything that stifles your potential, right? So 3, it just follows that real freedom is the act of bringing your potential to life. And that brings us to the final, most important point. 4. Your real priority in this life is to discover and fulfill that potential. So, how do we actually do that? In a world that's full of limitations, what's the best way to actualize our potential? This brings us to the very peak of this whole idea, a concept called tawakkul. It's a word that really means a deep, profound, and ultimate kind of trust. Think about it this way.
When you're facing a really complex problem, like a serious health issue or some tricky legal stuff, what's the smartest move? You don't just guess, right? You go find an expert. You trust them. And why do you trust them? Because they have way more experience, way more knowledge, and a much better ability to handle the situation. They can see the best path forward, a path that from where you're standing, you probably couldn't even imagine on your own. And in that moment of trust, you become free, not free from limits, but free from the paralyzing confusion of having to make a huge choice with no information. The expert guides you. Well, the concept of tawakkul takes that exact same logic, but it applies it to your entire life by trusting the ultimate expert, God. And this idea is laid out so beautifully right here. It basically says that when you're mindful of God, He creates a way out of your problems and provides for you from places you could never, ever have expected. That's that unexpected path the expert reveals. And it continues right here. Whoever puts their full trust in God, He is enough for them. He is sufficient. This is the ultimate expression of trusting the expert's plan, of acknowledging that there's a bigger design at play, a measure for all things, even when we can't see it ourselves. Now, this is so important. Tawakkul isn't this passive thing you do when you've given up and run out of options. Not at all. It is the most proactive, intelligent choice you can make. It's you consciously choosing the absolute best possible outcome by handing your affairs over to the one who knows every possible path. And when a person reaches this state of true trust, they finally find real freedom. Yeah, they still live in a world packed with limitations, but those limitations no longer have any power over them. They aren't oppressed anymore. See, with this kind of trust, the very things that felt like barriers completely transform. They become tests. They become tailor-made challenges designed specifically to help you grow. They stop being obstacles and start being the very tools you need, the catalysts, to elevate yourself and finally realize that incredible potential that was put inside you all along. So we'll end with this one last thought to really let sink in. What if the very things in your life that you see as your biggest limitations aren't actually holding you back at all? What if they are the very signposts guiding you exactly where you need to go to find your true potential? Now that is a powerful way to redefine freedom.
Hey, so let's talk about freedom. What if I told you that our modern obsession with having endless options, more choices, more paths, more everything, is actually the opposite of freedom? Today we're going to dive into a pretty powerful idea, that real liberation isn't found in a sea of choices, but in the incredible clarity of a single, purposeful path. Let's get into it. I mean, our entire world just screams yes to this question, right? We're constantly told that more flavors of ice cream, more career paths, more shows to stream, well, that equals more freedom. But what if that's a huge misunderstanding? What if the very thing we're all chasing in the name of liberty is actually just a beautifully decorated cage? And this slide just nails what's called the paradox of choice. On the one hand, you have the idea we all grew up with: more choices, more freedom. Simple. But then there's the reality, which I think we've all felt. An avalanche of options just leads to paralysis, to anxiety, to that constant nagging fear of making the wrong decision. Instead of feeling liberated, we just end up feeling totally overwhelmed. Okay, so freedom isn't about having endless choices, then what is it? This is where we have to completely shift our perspective. See, the goal isn't to remove every single boundary from our lives. I mean, as finite beings, that's just impossible, right? Chasing a state of being unlimited is a dead end, because you'll always just move from one set of limitations to another. The real goal is something totally different. True freedom is about being unoppressed, and that, right there, changes everything. It shifts the focus from our external circumstances to our internal state. It's not about how many paths are available to us, but about our ability to walk our true path without being crushed or held back by our own limitations.
So what does unoppressed actually mean? Well, it's just the ability for your unique potential to be fully actualized. Think about an oak tree. It's limited, right? It's limited by its location, the soil, the weather, but its freedom lies in its ability to grow strong and tall, to fulfill its own oakness right where it's planted. Its potential isn't being oppressed by its circumstances.
Now, to really get a handle on this, it helps to think of it as a kind of journey of understanding. There are basically 3 distinct levels to how we see freedom,
and each one gets us a little bit closer to the truth.
So what does this journey look like? Well, at the novice level, where most of us start, freedom is like a giant buffet of options. The more, the better. Then you get to the intermediate level, and it becomes about power, the ability to act on any choice without being blocked. But the highest level, the enlightened level, is a total game changer. It's not about choosing from many paths anymore. It's about gaining the clarity to see the one path that is truly meant for you.
This image just captures that enlightened state so perfectly. For someone with that kind of clarity, all those thousands of other doors, they're not even tempting distractions anymore. It's not that they've lost choice, it's that they've gained so much focus that all the other options just become irrelevant noise. The static fades away, and all that's left is the signal.
And this is why you hear prophets and people with deep spiritual insight say something like this: Sami'atna wa atharna. We hear and we obey. Now, this isn't a statement of blind, reluctant submission. No, it's the ultimate expression of freedom. Freedom from doubt, freedom from confusion, freedom from the heavy burden of lesser choices, because the call to their true purpose is just heard so clearly.
So, if the goal is to hear that one true call, how do we even get there? Well, this leads us to what we could call the ultimate choice. It might sound like another paradox, but the absolute peak of free will is actually found in an act of surrender.
So what is this one single ultimate choice that contains all freedom inside of it? It's the choice to trust the wisdom that is far greater than our own.
In the Islamic tradition, there's a beautiful concept for this called tawakkul. Now, this isn't passive resignation, it's not giving up, it's an active, conscious, and really powerful choice to place your trust in God's plan, believing that His knowledge and His wisdom are way beyond your own limited understanding.
If this sounds a little out there, just think about it like this. When you get sick, you trust a doctor. You literally place your health in their hands because you recognize they have superior knowledge, experience, and power in that area. Well, tawakkul is that exact same logic, just applied on the ultimate scale. It's recognizing the divine as the ultimate expert on your life and trusting that this guidance will lead to an outcome better than anything you could have possibly cooked up on your own. And here's the thing, making this ultimate choice comes with a profound promise. It's a promise of guidance and help, especially when you feel lost. As a verse from the Quran puts it, for someone who has this trust, He will make a way out for them and provide for them from sources they could never imagine.
And the verse goes on to assure us that this trust is never ever misplaced. Whoever puts their trust in Allah, then He is sufficient for them. By aligning your will with the divine will, you're aligning yourself with a purpose that is guaranteed to be accomplished. Can you just imagine the peace and freedom that comes from that kind of certainty?
Okay, so let's bring all of this together. We've kind of journeyed from the confusion of endless choice all the way to the clarity of a single purpose. At the end of the day, this is all about finding your true north.
So here's the big takeaway. It's really time to redefine what freedom means to you. It's not about being unlimited. It's about being unoppressed, so your true potential can finally flourish. The highest, most liberating choice you can possibly make is tawakkul and trusting your journey. And when you look through that lens, you start to see your limitations not as prisons, but as the very arenas designed specifically for your growth.
This entire worldview is really rooted in a simple but incredibly profound truth. Indeed, we have created all things with a measure. Everything in existence has a specific purpose and a specific design, and that includes you. Your limitations aren't random flaws. They are part of your unique measure, defining the very space in which you are meant to thrive.
And so I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Amidst all the noise of infinite possibilities and the paralysis of having way too many choices, what is the one door, the one path that is truly and uniquely yours? Finding the answer to that, well, that's the beginning of real freedom.
Today we're going to talk about something we all want, right? Freedom. But what if I told you that real, true freedom isn't about having 1,000 doors to choose from? What if it's actually about having the clarity to find the one door that's truly meant for you? Let's get into it.
So let me start with this question, just to get you thinking. Does having more choices really, truly make you feel more free? I mean, think about it. The last time you were trying to make a big decision, did all those options make it easier, or did you just feel paralyzed? We've all been taught that more choices equals more freedom. But is that the whole story?
You know, the funny thing is, the reality is often the complete opposite. It's what they call the paradox of choice. It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and they hand you a menu that's 20 pages long. You get so overwhelmed trying to find the perfect meal that you end up just, ordering the first thing you see. It's not liberating, it's confusing, it's paralyzing.
So this is the really crucial shift we need to make. The common view, right, is that freedom means being unlimited. No boundaries, no restrictions. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? The deeper truth is that freedom isn't about being unlimited, it's about being unoppressed. It's not about having more choices, it's about having true clarity. That one little change in definition, it changes everything.
Now, getting to that deeper truth, it's a journey, right? It doesn't just happen overnight. There are actually different stages to understanding what freedom really is. So let's kind of walk through these 3 levels and see which one resonates with you.
Okay, so step 1, the novice view. This is like being a kid in a candy store. The more options, the better. That's freedom. Then you kind of level up to the advanced view, where you think, okay, freedom is being able to choose whatever I want with absolutely no obstacles in my way. But the real breakthrough, the essential view, is realizing that true freedom, it actually lies beyond the act of choosing itself.
And this quote, wow, it just captures that idea perfectly. Imagine it. You're standing there and you see 1,000 open doors. The person who is truly free doesn't panic. They don't have to weigh the pros and cons of every single one. They just know. There's this calm certainty, and they walk through their door. And all those other doors, they just fade away.